One thing I did miss was the wages in the marine industry start probably in the high teens. For even after you get out of school, you're still kind of a greenhorn, you're building experience. And then our technicians that have 5 to 10 years experience are making $60,000 a year. It's a nice livable wage. And like I said, it's also, I think, a good career. Most technicians are happy. They like what they're doing. They like the atmosphere. And so it's definitely a viable career.
It sounds like there's quite a range of types of companies people might end up working for. Like, is it more typical for people to be working on their own, running their own business, or is it more typical for them to be working for a larger company?
Yeah, good question. Most technicians are working for a medium-sized company. It's a boat yard that has 10 or 20 people in it, maybe a little larger, sometimes smaller. The day-to-day life. I have one student who works over here at Anacortes Yacht Charters. And so the charter boats go out, people play for a week or two, they come back, there's always something that's broken. And so they come in the morning and they get assigned, here's 3 boats, 3 different problems, and they go fix those. Or if they're in a boat yard, then it's, they usually kind of have a specialty area. But same thing, they'll come in the morning and they'll be like, okay, this week you're going to work on wiring up a bow thruster in this boat that they just, installed. Or, when you get done with that, you're going to be changing out a set of batteries or, servicing a generator, so your job varies day to day typically, which is what a lot of people like about it. It's not mundane. If you're the type of person that really likes things kind of laid out, when you work in a production boat building shop like at Nordic Tug, if you're an electrician, you're going to wire a 32-foot Nordic Tug, and then when you're done, they're going to have you wire another one, and so you're going to know exactly kind of where everything goes and what it looks like. So you wire everything, you power up all the equipment, you test it, make sure it all works, and then it goes on. And then some of our students do like the troubleshooting bit. They work for a boat yard, but somebody is visiting. And same thing if you're working out in Roche Harbor, if you're working in Friday Harbor, any of these boat yards, you get visiting boats that come in and they make the phone call and say, my generator quit running. And the technician, that's your job. Go down, figure out why it doesn't run. If you can, bring it back online, order parts, stuff like that. So that's kind of the day by day of what the career looks like.
Do they typically provide health benefits or other kinds of benefits?
They do. I think it follows suit with most medium-sized companies. They're going to offer some sort of healthcare package, paid vacation, sick leave, stuff like that.
What are the physical requirements?
So that's a great question. Like I said, I've done some Washington State retraining, handful of them. We do have a standard, you should be able to lift 40 pounds. The beauty of our industry is, yes, there are technicians that have to crawl around in tight spaces and down below the floorboards and so on and so forth. But there are so many jobs right now. There's a lot of jobs, like I talked about, like installing radars and things like this, where you're not in those cramped spaces. Or I had one gentleman who I think was a roofer and, construction, and just his knees were shot and this and that. And he went through our program. He liked working on outboard motors. And so, you don't lift outboard motors anymore. You set them on the back of the boat with a forklift. And a lot of the service is you pop the top off from it and you stand next to the motor. So you're standing, but you're not, it's way easier on his body. So he loved working on servicing outboard motors. And it was a perfect fit. So, there is 40-pound lifting typically. If you are, if you're disabled, you can't lift at all just because of tools and things like that. It's not a good industry for you, but there are opportunities.
That's great to hear. One of the other sort of career-oriented questions was, what about the licensing and continuing training requirements? It sounds like a pretty diverse mix of things, but you have sort of a ballpark picture.
Right. We do have There is continuing ed, and what that looks like is when you pass like an ABYC certification, you get an advisor status, and then you've got to put hours in, kind of like the apprenticeship model, to keep your certification going. And then you also need like clock hours. So there are different trainings that you can do online or you can go to. And so it's kind of in a 5-year cycle. They do expect in industry that you're getting some training. Like right now, for the last 5 years, we've been slowly bringing lithium batteries up to boats. So you'll come to like we do seminars here at our school. We'll do an all-day seminar about here's some new technology. Here's what you need to know about it. Get people trained up. If you're working in the engines and as a mechanic, companies like Yamaha, Suzuki, when you're working for somebody and you're fixing these engines, they have their own individual trainings, 2 and 3 day that the employer sends the student to, the worker at that point, and gets trained on. Here's the latest 3 or 4 years of what's new in our industry. Or they sometimes will send them to a training if there's a common problem and they've got a workaround or a fix. They're like, here's how you take care of this. And so there is that kind of growing professionally while you're in our industry.
It seems like this fall schedule that you've got because of COVID would be really perfect for San Juan County residents to participate in. So do you know if there's any plan to keep going with something like that beyond this fall?
I would think, I would assume for this whole school year, if we get things going for this 9 months, I do believe that this COVID, there's got to be something good that comes out of it. And I think everybody in education is looking at what they do and how they do it to better meet the needs of, our current society. And so I would not be surprised if we don't keep some sort of a modified schedule and not just for San Juan County, right? I mean, the islands, obviously, Orcas and Lopez and everybody could access our program. But I have to look at, there's people that live in Seattle, right? And same thing, they're not going to commute 4 days a week and be successful. But if it was 2 days a week, we might bring people in, from a distance. And, so I'm definitely open to it. And I think that it's going to be viable as we move forward. I've been working really hard, not just on a YouTube channel to let people know what we do, but with the state of Washington, we just got a grant, which is going to be renewable for up to 5 years to grow our program. And part of growing our program is we're kind of limited in the building we have because buildings are so expensive, but we could be creative with how we deliver content, similar to what we're doing now. And so I think that this fall would work out perfect for the islands, but I think that from here forward, there's probably going to be options. So.
Well, that's great to hear. Are there things that people could do to shave off time from the program?
Right. I don't think I'm not sure about shaving off time, but if you make this decision and you're like, well, I didn't even think about boats, I would highly recommend going to the local yard, where they fix boats, where there's boats, and say, look, I'm considering going to this program and, could you hire me, right? Or could I job shadow somebody for a week? And I guarantee you, if a person goes to the boatyard and says, because everybody is looking to hire and to get people in our industry. So if one boatyard said, no, go to the next one, and I would do just that. I would say, can I job shadow somebody for a week to see what this looks like? Could I work here part-time? The students that get the best education from us are working, even, 8 hours, 10 hours a week, a couple days, a couple half days while they're going to school, because that on-the-job experience is really valuable as well. And there's not a lot of classes you can do online. You could do an English class, and everybody who goes to Skagit Valley College and gets a certificate needs 3. They need a math class, which is what I teach, and you need a English class and a social science class. And those could be done online, so that you could start taking some college classes and and knock those out of the way. But we usually like to start fall. Fall is the absolute best time because the electrical class and the engines, those are key. They're like prereqs. And so if you try to start winter or spring, it's really tough to get a schedule that's going to fill up because we're such a small program. So we really encourage everybody to try and make fall work. And if it absolutely doesn't, we've had some students come in and take as many classes as they could and kind of go part-time and then cycle through the next year and still get their certificate. So.
Yeah, you mentioned that people were still working part-time while doing the program. Could you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think that might be an issue for a lot of people too. So.
Yeah, well, a lot of people need to pay rent, right? To eat food. So just by the nature of our program being that second shift, even when we're full-time, when we're 4 days a week, students had from, the full morning and Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. And so a lot of our students would either work the 8 to 12 shift and then, in the morning come to school, or they would work on Fridays and Saturdays. And almost anybody who I think is going to our program should be able to land part-time employment in the marine industry. Some of my students, they stuck with working for UPS or working at this restaurant because the money was better, while they were going to school. But the ones that got the best education chose that opportunity. And in Anacortes, and I'm sure the islands, I don't know exactly. I know they've reached out a couple of different times saying if you know anybody who wants to live in the islands. And the trouble is, if I try to send somebody out there who's not already there, it's so cost prohibitive. So if you're already living there, you have got a golden opportunity to get some training and be employed out there. And so, but the local yards here in Anacortes, anybody who's going to our program, if they want a job, they have employment part-time. So it's just because the local yards recognize what we do. And they of course want that student to stay on full-time after school as well. So it's in their best interest to try and keep them. But there would be, I know, opportunities to work, on any of the islands, any of the bigger islands. I think they all have little, boat repair yards. So I'm sure students could absolutely go to work. And if you're going to come to the program, if you don't know how to get to those places, contact me because I will find a place and help you down that path. So that's what I do.
So one last question about the career pathways. Are there other pathways into the career, like on-the-job training, that people could take if they look at this and say, I still really like to do the program or to get into that as careers, but I'm not sure this program is right for me? Correct.
So there are, like I said, most of the boat yards are willing to take people on and train them. It's just a lot longer path to getting that skill set. It's really hard to get a master mechanic to want to stop and work with you and really teach you all they know. It's not that it doesn't exist. It takes a lot longer to do it, but it certainly wouldn't hurt to get your feet wet. And if you're not really into wanting to be a mechanic or an electrician on a boat, then you could still go out and be in the marine industry, whether it's, whale watching boats, working in a marina, helping out. There's a lot of opportunities where if you just wanted to work for a year or so and do kind of career explorations, I say go for it. All the local yards, the people are, maybe you want to dabble in commercial fishing or any of these other water activities, then it's a good idea. I have some students who were really into kind of submersibles. They want to get a skill set so they know how to fix a boat, but only if something breaks down when they're out doing research. I have Alaska fishermen who come down because they only want to fix their boat if it breaks down while they're fishing. And so we really mesh into a lot of these different industries. So, but I would encourage anyone, if you're just thinking about it, go to a local boat yard, find boats, It's fun. It's a good career. Somebody will hire you.
Well, thank you so much. So one last question is, what's your favorite part about working in marine repair and maintenance?
That's a great question. I miss being out actually on the boats because I'm kind of here training all the time, but I still do get to go out on boats. I think for me, boats just represent this American dream, freedom. It's just people really dream about having a boat. And so being able to go down to dock and have my tools and work with somebody and fix their, this is their passion, their baby, and make it right. I do like just fixing things. At the end of the day, I get satisfaction of, I go down, I look around, I get all the clues, follow things out, and then, oh, I've got this fixed. This person can carry on. I've had people stop in Anacortes. They leave Seattle. They're going to Alaska. They're like, their dream is just going to be squashed if they can't fix these two things. And when you can fix that at the end of the day and make them smile and send them off, it's just super rewarding. So, and I do like variety. I could never work at Boeing where they give you a box of parts and you go put it on the airplane, and the next day they give you the same box of parts, you go put it on an airplane. That's not in my soul. I need to be out, be creative, and sometimes, yes, it's raining and you're going down the dock with your big hat on going, what am I doing out here? But it's the same thing. You get the satisfaction of fixing things and being creative, and that really, really kind of turns my crank.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. Did you want to put up that screen with the...
So first of all, thank you everybody for watching. Hopefully you learned a little bit about the marine industry. And if you have any questions, I am definitely the person to talk to over here in Anacortes. So this is me, Michael Beemer from the college. My email is right there, mike.beamer@skagit.edu. Feel free to drop me a note. You can call me in my office. My personal cell phone is there as well. And if you go to the YouTube channel, the SVC Scallywag, just put it in the search engine. There's 25 videos of projects we have done in the past, projects we're doing. Two key videos that I would watch if you're interested in the program is the walking tour, kind of as a tour of the marine maintenance program. And just watch that. It's Matt and I cruising through the building, explaining in much more detail than this little short video that you just watched what goes on here. And I also like one of my former students, Kyle, who knew nothing about boats. He came from Georgia. I mean, nothing. He just woke up one day, talked to his uncle and said, I want to fix boats. So he came to our program for 2 years and I helped him land a job. He wanted to go someplace warm, and he is currently working in the British Virgin Islands. So there's a video called Kyle and BVI, and he just made the video on his own, and I think it's perfect. If I was talking for him, that's exactly what I would have had him say. And so it's a really good resource for somebody who's considering the marine industry to check out those 2 videos, and feel free to watch any of the other ones that are up there. We put up a couple new ones every week. So if you have questions, let me know, but hopefully this was helpful.
Well, thank you again so much for coming.